I'm not one of the big headliners. Nobody's a hero in their own country or whatever. Maybe Krishna's saying I have to travel more. Yeah, yeah. Settling down is not the dharma of a sannyasi. Traveling and preaching is the dharma. So, Jaya Radha Madhura Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhura Kunjabi Hari Gopinana Malaba Irivaranati Gopinana Malaba Irivaranati Yasudhananaraja Janaranjana Yasudhananaraja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Manachare Yamuna Tira Manachare Jaya Rana Madhuva Kunjabi Jaya Radhu Madhuva Kunjabi Gopi Dala Malaba Giri Baladari Gopi Dala Malaba Giri Baladari Yasudhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasudhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Manachari Yamuna Tira Manachari Jaya Radhu Madhuva Kunya Viharuti Jaya Radhu Madhuva Kunya Viharuti Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravitakacharya also Teta Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chalananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadwaya Gadadha Srivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopidana Shayama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Vachiradam Ki Jai Jagadada Sami Ki Jai Munamai Ki Jai Srimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Haribo. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namah Vishnupadaya. Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Samaniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschachate Shatari. So today we are reading from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 75th chapter, text 31. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Marigolds. Marigolds. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ekadanta Pure Tasha Viksha Duryodhana Shyam Atapyad Rajasu Yasya Hitvang Chachutatmana Ekadanta Purhetasya. Thank you. Viksha Duryodhanashriham Atapyad Rajasuyasya Mahitvam Chachutatmana Ekadanta Purhetasya Viksha Duryodhanashriham Atapyan Rajasuyasya Mahitvam Chachutatmana Ekadanta Purhetasya Viksha Duryodhanashriham Atapyad Rajasuyasya Mahitvam Chachutatmana. Sriyam Rajasuyasya Hitvam Chachutatmana All right. Ekada, one day, Antapure, within the palace, Tasya, his Maharaj Yudhishthira's, Viksha, observing, Duryodhana, Shyam, opulence, Atapyat, he was pained. Rajasuyasya, of the Rajasuya sacrifice. Mahitvam, the greatness. Cha, and. Achuta Atmana, of him King Yudhisthira, whose very soul was Lord Achyuta. So, translation. One day, Duryodhana, while observing the riches of King Yudhisthira's palace, felt greatly disturbed by the magnificence of both the Rajasuya sacrifice and its performer, the king, whose life and soul was Lord Achyuta. You can repeat. One day, Duryodhana, while observing the riches of King Yudhisthira's palace, felt greatly disturbed by the magnificence of both the Rajasuya sacrifice and its performer, the king, whose life and soul was Lord Achyuta. So there's no purport by the followers of Srila Prabhupada. So there's commentaries by the Acharyas, so I'll read them quickly. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes, this verse begins to describe how Duryodhana's pride was broken, seeing the splendor of the inner chambers and the greatness of the sacrifice of Yudhisthira, who was completely attached to Krishna, Achyutatmana. Duryodhana became pained. And Jiva Goswami says, having mentioned that Yudhisthira's sacrifice was the cause of Duryodhana's sorrow, Shukadev now describes the reason until verse 39. Out of great pride, Duryodhana usually stayed in his own camp, but one time, burning with envy on constantly hearing about it, he went to the palace and saw the wealth of the kingdom and the sacrifice's influence and prominence, Mahitvam. Previously, he did not pay much attention because of the crowds at the time of the sacrifice and occupation with his duties, which is actually collecting and counting the money. Now, however, with the absence of these distractions, he saw everything in detail. Viiksha. He showed great pain. But Yudhisthira's wealth and the sacrifice's greatness was proper, without the fault of pride, since his heart was focused on Krishna, who was full of all powers and sweetness. Achyutatmana. It's interesting. Sweetness. Achyutatmana. So, Sanatana Goswami, finally. Having mentioned that Yudhisthira's sacrifice was the cause of Duryodhana's sorrow, Shukadeva now describes the reason until verse 39. Seeing the wealth in the palace, he was pained by the greatness of the sacrifice and King Mahitvam, or he was pained by the worship given by all people, Mahitvam, to Yudhisthira, caused by the sacrifice. The wealth and the greatness of the sacrifice were causes. Yudhisthira's heart was focused on Krishna, who was full of all powers and sweetness, Achyutat Mana. This was the particular cause of Duryodhana's hatred. Or the verse shows the extraordinary greatness of Yudhisthira's wealth. So, Ekana Pure Tasha Viksha Duryodhana Shriyam Atopya Rajasu Yasya Mitvam Cha Chutat Mana Somagana Timirandasha Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha. So let's go back a little bit in history. According to the Mahabharata, Duryodhana is an incarnation of Kali. You remember Kali Yuga? That's where we are right now. And Kali is quarrel, envy, personification of sin, Iron Age, all those nice things, as we're seeing every day if you read the news. So he is the personification, and he is a demigod. Oh my God, a demigod. So why is Kali a demigod? He's actually considered in the Mahabharata, it says he's the worst of the demigods. And he has a nice friend whose name is Dwapar Yuga. And that's Shakuni, who's almost as bad as Duryodhana. So it's interesting. God bless you. Gesundheit. May Dios bendice. So anyway, so they were actually sent down by Krishna on a mission to stir things up. Why were they sent down to stir things up? I mean, he's naturally envious anyway. He didn't have to say, well, this is my duty to stir things up. That's his nature, envy, Kali. Just like yesterday, we saw an interesting film about, actually it was a great film about how Kali was beating, the Bhagavatam describes, Kali was in the dress of a king, and he was beating the cow and the bull. The bull was standing on one leg. We know that one leg indicates the one religious principle that's still there in Kali Yuga, and I doubt if it's still here, truthfulness. And the other one's cleanliness, merciful, and austerity. They are finished, kaput, as they say. And so Kali was dressed as a just envious person, and he was begging Yudhisthira Maharaj for a place to live, not Yudhisthira, Parikshit, for a place to live when Parikshit stopped him from all this heinous activity. And basically he was given 4 places, which you know the 4 regulated principles, and ultimately, because in Parikshit's kingdom, no one was breaking the regulated principles, he was given the place where people were hoarding gold for sense gratification. So, anyway, so that's Kali. So he was sent down to stir things up so that Krishna could get everyone together at one time and wipe them all out, all the demons. You know, it's just, Krishna wants to be very efficient. Just like oh my God, I heard this class from Prabhupada this morning. Prabhupada was talking about overpopulation. Usually he says there's no overpopulation. But in this case, he says there's overpopulation. And the reason he said that there's overpopulation on the earth is because just like he gave the example of school, you know, different grades, and if you flunk out, Prabhupada didn't use the word flunk, but if you're left back, then there may be too many people in 3rd grade. It's a really beautiful class. It was in 1966 the class was given. I don't remember the exact citation, but it was one of the early classes. because people then were talking about overpopulation. It was one of the main topics in the news. And Prabhupada said, yes, there is overpopulation because people are flunking out and not going on to the next grade, which is self-realization, progress, Bohanam Janmanamante Gyanavamam Prapachate, etc. So Prabhupada said, therefore, Krishna has to arrange all these wars. And that was the time of the Vietnam War. All these wars so that people will kill each other, reduce the population. I thought it was really interesting. I hadn't heard that class before. And it was a different take on overpopulation, the reason for it, and the reason for wars. So in this particular case, that's the reason too. There's an overpopulation of demons. And the reason there's an overpopulation of demons is the demons have been sent down, have come down to the earth planet after they've been defeated, as described in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and they're taking shelter of the earth. And sometimes people watch Star Wars calls like they consider the earth to be like a Death Star or something like that. Anyway, they were taking shelter of the earth. And the demigods had to come down. First they complained to Krishna. We know in the beginning of the 10th canto. They complained to Lord Vishnu and the shore of the ocean of milk. We got a problem here, overpopulation of demons. So you got to do something about it. So Krishna arranged for the demigods, including Kali, to come down, to stir things up. So Duryodhana actually had a service. But he, at the same time, he enjoyed his service. It wasn't saying, oh my God, this is a thankless task. It was his nature. So you talk about people, it's interesting, Mother Irma's class, people being engaged according to your nature. So someone is absolutely demoniac, I guess you got to arrange them in some demoniac activities. That's it. Krishna did that. Krishna is an expert in Varnashram and, engaging. Yeah, he did. Krishna arranged Duryodhana. This is in the Mahabharata. It's like that. So you should make some concession in your class, in your seminar, about people who are demons. People who are out and out demons. There are people like that. How do you engage them in Krishna's service? Reduce the population. Anyway, so of course, at the same time, Duryodhana had some interesting samskaras. What I mean by samskaras, even before his birth, Dhritarashtra, his father, who was actually also pretty bad, also envious, because he was so envious because he was born blind, couldn't become the king, and he saw his brother Pandu become the king, and then he understood he could never become the king, because kings were meant to what? Be at the forefront of the battlefield, fighting and being ready to die for the citizens and die for the whole army. So that he couldn't do that because he was blind. And so he was just seething in envy. And he was actually born spiritually blind as well as materially blind because of the way, that's samskara, his Garbhadan samskara. That is, when Ambalika. So when his mother Ambalika was approached by Vyasadeva, she just closed her eyes. And so therefore he was not only born materially blind, but spiritually blind too. And so that was his samskara, Dhritarashtra. And then he was just so envious, when he impregnated his wife, Gandhari, he was just thinking, I got to have a son who's going to be born before, the Pandavas, before Pandu has a child. Of course, at that time, they didn't know that Pandu could have a child because they were in the forest and Pandu had been cursed by the Rishi Kindama. So he was seething in envy at the time of Duryodhana's samskara. That's a nice Garbhadan Sanskar. And then, not only that, but then Gandhari, when she heard what? She heard that Kunti had given birth before her. She got so upset, she punched her womb, gave birth to a lump of flesh. So that, that's another samskara there. Talk about, bad samskaras. Not only are you Kali, but your father is like extremely envious. Your mother is extremely envious. So much so that she punches her womb. Oh my God. And then, of course, Vyasadeva came and divided up the lump of flesh to 101 parts. And not only that, but you're born, talking about his astrology, but you're born at a time when the jackals are howling. The astrological calculation was, this guy's a loser. He's going to destroy the whole dynasty. Can you imagine that? I don't know if Raghunanda's ever done an astrology like that, where you came across someone who was a real loser. He has. He's nodding right now. It's probably my horoscope. Anyway, so it's just like, oh my God, he's a loser. You should get rid of the guy. Vidura says you get rid of the guy. If you don't get rid of him, he's going to destroy the whole dynasty. And Duryodhana looked at the face. That Dhritarashtra looked at the face of his cute little Duryodhana. Duryodhana means dirty fighter. Imagine giving someone a name like that. What's your name, Prabhu? Dirty fighter. Duryodhana. Anyway, so, oh my God. So everything's, stacked against the guy or for him in terms of his mission. And so, anyway, so fast forward to help him accomplish the mission. Krishna wants to stir up his envy even more. And this Rajasuya sacrifice, one of the reasons for the Rajasuya sacrifice was to stir up his envy. And if we go back a little bit in the history before the Rajasuya sacrifice, we'll see that Duryodhana had his whole plan to get rid of the Pandavas by sending them to Indraprastha. It was resolved that the Pandavas and Kurus couldn't live with each other because obviously Duryodhana made several attempts on at least Bhimsen's life. And so, therefore, you got to split the whole property, the country, and let's give the Pandavas something that's just like completely useless and hopeless, which is Indraprastha. It wasn't called Indraprastha then. It was Khandavaprastha at that point. Later on it became Indraprastha. So they thought, it's a desert there, there's snakes there. Our friend Takshaka was there, your friend. Takshaka was there, there's all these snaky people. Nagas. Actually, they weren't just like ordinary rattlers, but they could fly through the air. Snake birds. And of course, that snake bird Takshaka ultimately killed Parikshit Maharaj later on. So they were sent there, this desert, and what they did is, right where the snakes were, that's the kind of a forest, and Agni wanted to eat the kind of a forest because he had indigestion. He was taking too much ghee. Because there was a sacrifice, I think it was 12 years, King Marut had poured ghee into the sacrifice continually for 12 years, so obviously he had indigestion. Probably some acid reflux too. So Arjuna helped him. Arjuna was able to defeat Indra, who was protecting the forest, and so many living entities got killed. And ultimately, as far as this story is concerned, Mayadanava came out, because Mayadanava sought protection from Krishna and Arjuna. And Mayadanava was so pleased that he was given protection, he was able to construct this palace where water appeared like land, and land appeared like water, and basically the doorways were so clear. I mean, imagine clear glass where it can't even tell there's glass there. I remember when I first got my car, the windshield was so clear. Now it's not anymore. So new glasses like that. And so he arranged that. Why did he arrange it like that? So that Duryodhana could be insulted. I mean, this was all part. You see how Krishna is just like setting the scene, arranging everything for his own purposes. And nobody's aware except for Krishna why these things are being done. That's why Grandfather Bhishma says, no one can understand the plan of the Supreme Lord. That's a Bhagavatam verse. I mean, we know Paritranaya Sadhanam Vinashaya Chadushkritam. He wants to annihilate miscreants, establish religious principles, and reduce population. But really, you don't know what his strategy is. You know, sometimes we think, what the H-E-double-L is Krishna doing? What does he want from me? Why has he arranged things in this way? But, you know, Krishna has it all planned out, down to the minutest detail. Isn't it just planned out? Of course, that doesn't excuse your Maya. Krishna has my Maya planned out, down to the minutest detail. Krishna has a plan to give you free will. Arjuna could have not fought. He had free will. That's why Krishna gave him the choice. So Krishna's just, you see, every little nook, corner, atom is just not a blade of grass, as we often hear, moves without the will of the Supreme Lord. So it's just amazing. So anyway, so Krishna arranges this amazing palace. Krishna arranges that Duryodhana is going to be counting the money. Oh my God. Krishna arranges that, you know, you hear later on that Duryodhana in the Bhagavatam, that Duryodhana thinks land is water, water is land. He gets wet, all the ladies laugh at him, all the Pandavas laugh. Not Yudhisthira. Yudhisthira doesn't laugh. It's interesting. Everyone laughs at Duryodhana when he just makes a fool of himself. Yudhisthira doesn't. And Yudhisthira tries to stop them from laughing. And Krishna says, what? No, keep laughing. You know, Krishna's supposed to be Karna Sindhu. You know, someone slips. You know, just like if someone like slips in a puddle out there, I'll just try to help them, and I say, don't laugh at that person, right? So here's God, and he's saying, yeah, let's laugh at it. Even Krishna was laughing. You know, ultimately that appears to be very unkind, isn't it? You know, a great king, and Duryodhana is a king, and so Krishna is just like, oh my God, what an amazing God he is to do such a thing. So anyway, so just stirring up the envy more and more and more. It's just like igniting a fire by rubbing two sticks together, or stones as they used to do in America. And so to get his envy up even higher. So that's the history, but I want to talk about envy, because all of us in this material world, we have a little bit of Duryodhana in us. Not too much, hopefully. It's one of the anarthas. Everybody knows, but anartha means things you don't want. So it means lust, anger, greed, envy, illusion, fear, kamakrodha, manavatsarya, bodhya, bhaya. And these are unwanted things. So where does this, particularly this envy, comes from? Well, that's described in the Vedic literature is Krishna Badhirmukha, which basically means envy. We turn our face away from Krishna. Imagine turning your face away from the most beautiful, attractive, strongest, intelligent, Bhagavan, famous, right? Renounced person. You just turn your face away from him. Krishna Badhirmukha. That's envy. So we turned our face away from Krishna, and therefore, because everyone is connected with Krishna, Mami Vangsa Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, we're actually in one sense envious of everybody. Like if you love Krishna, water the root of the tree, then you love everyone as part and parcel of Krishna. Like if I love someone, I love their dog, their children, like that, their dog. So anyway, and if you are envious of Krishna, that means basically you want to be the center, which means you're envious of everybody. You see this sometimes in conversations. People are talking, when do I get my word in here, my 10 cents or, whatever it is in here. So you sit around patiently listening to someone else trying to get yourself in, except at the GBC meeting. At the meetings we've been having with with the VGG meeting, some particular individual speaks so much, everyone else is trying to get their word in edgewise. So it's like that. We actually have some envy of each other instead of, compassion. And a devotee, of course, a pure devotee, Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu, Krishna is an ocean of compassion. So devotees Vanchakalpaturu, like we're chanting every morning, Vanchakalpaturu Vyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha. So how do we get to that point? Of course, standard answer, chant Hare Krishna, right? That's very good. Chant Hare Krishna purely. And then Prabhupada said, we'll be practical. Practical means, yes, we do chant Hare Krishna purely. Well, purely. We try to chant Hare Krishna purely. And at the same time, we act with knowledge. What we're doing, what we're performing in Krishna consciousness is called Buddhi Yoga. Yoga means to connect. Buddhi means with the intelligence. So, in other words, do the right thing. That's very easy. We should know the right thing. We have to associate with devotees, read Shastra, of course, not pick out whatever appeals to us in Shastra, like certain people do. That's a whole other discussion going on now. That is Shastra primary or is Prabhupada primary? That's a discussion, which we're going to actually make public. What? I know. So we send them to Mother Irma to study hermeneutics. So anyway, so the point is, we see Shastra, or we understand Shastra, through what? Prabhupada's instruction. He is the Acharya. Otherwise, what is it? Tarko Pratishta Shuddhina Vibhina. That Shastra, there's so many Shastras for so many injunctions. You could offer a goat to the goddess Kali once a month on the full moon day. Mamsa Kadati. That's in Shastra too. So to understand what's applicable, what's not applicable, then we approach the Acharya to understand that. And so some people just don't understand that. They say Prabhupada said something, but Shastra says something different. You have to use hermeneutics, again, to understand how to apply Shastra in that particular case. There's time, place, circumstance, application. So anyway, so Prabhupada's, let's say, vision, presentation of Shastra is supreme for those who are in the Krishna consciousness movement. That's what it means to be a disciple, grand disciple, or Siksha disciple of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. So therefore we know what is to be done and what is not to be done, and we act as if we don't have envy. That's a hard one. You know, action and knowledge, Prabhupada says, gives realization. We may not feel like doing something because our mind, you know, manakshastani indriyani prakritishtani karshati, our mind is influenced by the modes of nature. So a devotee should always analyze things. Just like we hear about Parikshit Maharaj, he's always looking for Krishna because he saw Krishna in the womb. So we should always be looking for Krishna in terms of an analysis of the circumstances, or wherever we are, based upon Shastra, Shastra Chakshush. And in this way, we can conquer over this envy, which actually we all have until we become more purified. And then we won't be like Duryodhana. So, and then if someone has more than us, a palace, we appreciate. If someone is a better preacher, we appreciate. Isn't it? If someone has a better car, we appreciate. You know, whatever. Otherwise, you know, we just want more and more and more. And then also, philosophically, we understand that what? Ishavashamidam sarvam gadgancha jagatam jagatena jakjena punjira magritha kashyas vijaram. Everything is actually owned by Krishna anyway. Krishna's just lending, whoever we're envious of, Krishna's just lending to him, and Krishna, because Krishna wants the person to have that. You know, even if it's a demon. Anyway, we all know some demons. So even if it's a demon, Krishna has given him that option. You know, like I say, a demon with $1 billion. Krishna's given it to him. He has his purpose, but it still belongs to Krishna. And then also, whatever we have should be used in the service of Krishna. Like Prabhupada said, not a farthing mismeant. Of course, no one knows what a farthing is because we're from the United States. But not a penny. Do they still have pennies nowadays? They got rid of pennies. Okay, so I haven't seen a penny in a long time. So not even a nickel. A nickel should, sorry, previously anyway. So not even a nickel should be spent because it belongs to Krishna. It's not yours to use. If you think something is mine to use, that means you're envious of Krishna. That consciousness is not the right consciousness. You could say it's mine to use in the service of Krishna, but ultimately it's to serve Krishna. Yatkancha jakajam jagat. And you give in a particular quota, and everybody has their quota. Someone has a higher quota of intelligence, like Mother Irmala has a higher quota of intelligence than me. So, why should I be envious? I can appreciate it. So, sure you like that one. So, any questions or comments? Yes. Yeah. 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 In beneficial way. Yeah, for our own benefit. What I try to do is like, what would Prabhupada say in this particular circumstance when I choose to speak or act like that in a particular way? Because that's ultimately beneficial. So, okay. Seva.
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvantam Aravindanalaya Taksham Marhamatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar Akom Vikamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Asa Sakalen Priya Priti Manti Asyan Dipan Dikayanti Jiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami 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 Govindam Adipurusham
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Namani Domine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gurvani Vajjar Renee Sesha Shunyavadi Masyaja Desatarine Masyaja Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Chitweta Ganada Siva Sade, Gauranga Brahma, Krishna, Chaitanya, Nityananda, Jaya Shri Krishna Nityananda, Ramanityananda, Jinaita, Siva Sadi, Normatudana. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Ramanityananda Jinaita Siva Sadi Noratupena Chaitanya Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha, Goloka, Radha Goloka, Radha. Nayad, Goloka, Goloka, Radha. Nayad, hey, Radhe, Radhe, Radhe. Radhe, Radhe, Radhe. Jai Radhe, Jai Om Vishnupad.
ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, Vaishnava Vrinda, Friends say go Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shri Radha, Shiva Sri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Shri Radha Krishna, Gopi Gopinath, Shine Kunda, Radha Kunda, Giri Gaura, Vrindavan Ki Jai, Churlan Ki Jai, Jagat Swami Ki Jai, Munamai Ki Jai, Srimati Vasudev Ki Jai, Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees.
We'll be having Nagar Sankirtan beginning at 10:30 on Saturday morning at Weaver Street Market. We'll be going to the farmers market, and it'll be a really nice thing to do, to get out and give the holy name to lots and lots of folks here in Hillsborough. Saturday morning, 10:30 at Weaver Street Market. Chaitodarpanam Arjanam Bhavamahadavagni Nirvapanam Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vitaranam Vijavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratipanam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahudani Jasarva Nis Tatrapitan Amita Smaranena Kala Etadrishita Bhakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiva Midrishami Hajanina Nara Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Suhishuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadaram Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajragadishamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatad Bhaktir Oitiki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishameva Vambudao Kripayata Vabada Pankaja Stita Duli Sajashim Vachintaya Nayanam Galashu Daraya Varanam Gad Gaduridaya Gira Pulakarnishitam Vapukada Tavanamagrahaneva Vishyati Yugayatam Nimishena Chakshusha Bhavashayatam Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahiname Ashlishyava Padamatam Astumam Adarshanam Marmahata Karotuva Yata Tatava Bidadatulam Pato Mat Prananatastusa Evanapara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you've invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh, my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causes, devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Oh, my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand an end at the recitation of your name? Oh, Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me brokenhearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything